Have you ever stared into the mirror and wondered why, no matter how successful, how strong, how accomplished you become, there's still a strange emptiness, a dull exhaustion, or a subtle sense that you're losing yourself every time you're around a certain woman? Maybe you've told yourself you just need to try harder, love more, be more patient, more forgiving. But with every passing day, it gets harder to even recognize the man you used to be. The greatest danger in any relationship isn't the shouting matches or the obvious betrayals, it's the silent erosion, the slow, almost invisible draining of your self-respect, your dreams, and your deepest convictions, until one day you realize there's nothing left but a hollow shell, and nobody else can see it but you. This video is your guide to recognizing the 7 hidden warning signs that every strong man needs to see, signs that can quietly strip away your peace, your value, and even your future if you choose to ignore them. If you've ever felt alone inside your own relationship, or quietly questioned whether the woman beside you truly deserves your loyalty, I invite you to stay until the very end, because awakening to these truths right now could change the course of your entire life. Are you ready? Let's begin this journey of self-mastery together. The foundation: a toxic woman. What are you sacrificing by staying? Have you ever noticed how, even when there's no shouting, no visible wounds, a part of you seems to disappear a little more with each passing day? No one says a word, but deep down, you know the quiet erosion begins with the woman beside you. Sometimes it's nothing more than a subtle shake of the head, a drip of criticism, a careless comparison, or long stretches of cold indifference. Yet the longer it goes on, the more you realize your confidence, your dreams, and even your gratitude for life itself are slowly bleeding out of you. It's not an explosion of pain, it's the haunting stillness of a man quietly retreating from himself. We grow up wanting to be strong, the provider, the protector, the anchor in the storm. Yet it's often this same patience, this deep fear of being alone, that leads many men to accept what they never should. A toxic woman rarely uses violence. Instead, she makes you doubt your worth, pushing you to try harder, to sacrifice one more time, making you believe that if you endure long enough, things will get better. But the truth is, the longer you stay, the more you lose your autonomy, your confidence, your friendships, your ambitions, your connection to your family, and the quiet peace of simply being yourself. The most dangerous thing about a toxic relationship isn't the sudden storms of anger, but the constant drip of invisible wounds. You build walls around yourself, constantly anxious about making a mistake, and slowly withdraw from the small joys that once made you feel alive. And all of it just to maintain a bond that, deep down, you know is already broken. You cling tighter, fearing that letting go will leave you with nothing. But the real cost is far greater. It's the slow death of your freedom, your sense of worth, your very identity. Yet there are women who bring peace instead of turmoil. Women like Michelle Obama, who stands beside her partner with quiet strength and fierce compassion. Like Emma Watson, modern and independent, yet graceful and respectful of healthy boundaries. Like Natalie Portman, balancing ambition and family with calm and authenticity. Or Kate Middleton, building happiness from the simplest moments, radiating patience and kindness. With women like these, you don't have to shrink to be loved. You don't have to trade away your truth just to feel safe. Their love helps you grow stronger, freer, more grounded in yourself. Stoic philosophy reminds us, true peace isn't found in what you're willing to suffer for another person. It's found in the clarity to see who is truly worthy of walking alongside you, and in the courage to leave when they are not. Endurance is not love. Sacrifice is not salvation. The most precious thing you own is your inner freedom, your dignity, your gratitude for each moment you are still yourself. Maybe somewhere in your own story, you've compromised just to keep a relationship alive, even though you could feel yourself fading away. If the answer is yes, then you have to ask, how much more are you willing to trade away? The warning signs often seem too small to take seriously, but if left unchecked, they will define your days and steal your years, until one morning you wake up a stranger to your own life. So where is the line between real love and the slow, quiet erasure of your soul? Let's find out together. 1. The erosion of confidence. From small remarks to never being enough. In New York City, a place where the lights never go out and every success story gets passed around like gospel, there's an erosion few men ever talk about, the slow, silent fading of a man's confidence, not because of storms outside, but because of the tiny, quiet things happening in the most intimate space of his life. Picture a young entrepreneur building his company from scratch, meeting new challenges every day amid the relentless energy of Manhattan. He once believed that with hard work and enough love, good things would surely follow. But the apartment he comes home to each night is the very place where his self-worth is worn down the most, not through harsh words, but through subtle comparisons and seemingly harmless comments. The woman he loves gradually begins to hold him up against other men friends, colleagues, even strangers online. Sometimes it's a casual joke. Look at John, he always knows how to surprise his girlfriend. Other times it's a soft remark. Did you see Tom just got promoted and immediately took his wife to Europe? At first, these words drift by like a light breeze, a vague discomfort that barely stirs. But as time goes on, those little hints repeat, wearing away at the stone of his self-respect until, eventually, he can't even recognize himself in the mirror. You don't react. You force a smile, telling yourself, she's just kidding, or you even start believing you need to do more, to be more. Yet, the more you strive, the further you seem to fall behind the ideal men in her mind, men who are never you. Every night, as the city quiets and the apartment stretches out, your world shrinks. You scroll through your phone, reading old messages, quietly wondering, am I good enough yet? The fire you once felt to live for yourself gets snuffed out by this urge to prove, to please, to become some version of yourself you hope she'll finally accept. You dive into work, study things you don't care about, drain every ounce of creativity, not from genuine passion, but to earn a word of praise, a look of approval, a gentle hug that says, now you measure up. And as your confidence dries up, you become the man who's always defensive, always on edge, afraid of judgment, convinced you're not good enough, not worthy, not anything enough. The strength you once had is replaced by doubt. Your initiative gives way to appeasement. The inner freedom you were once so proud of becomes a luxury. You're willing to trade away for a reluctant smile or a bit of affection that never quite fills the void. What's more frightening than anything is how you get used to being compared, to being diminished. You lower your own standards, settle for less, shrink into a shadow, no longer daring to dream big or believe in yourself, just chasing after the faint outlines of men she keeps mentioning. Stoicism reminds us, you have the freedom to choose your own value, no matter what anyone else says about you. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, do not let the opinions of others invade your mind. If a relationship constantly forces you to prove your worth, you've handed over the keys to your own life. That's not love, that's silent dependency. True peace, the Stoic says, only arrives when you have the courage to see yourself clearly, draw real boundaries, and live out the values that are truly yours, not those imposed by someone else. How many times have you brushed things off with a smile, only to lie awake wondering, am I enough? How many times have you told yourself, it's nothing, just to feel that small, sharp pain linger inside you, growing deeper every time. If the person by your side, day after day, only leaves you doubting your value, ask yourself, is that truly love, or just a test of how much you can endure? Have you ever looked back and realized that what holds you back isn't the world outside, but the way your confidence gets slowly chipped away right inside your own home? Once your confidence is fractured, you're left open to psychological control, where every choice and every effort is no longer about living freely, but only about holding on to love, and not about being the man you're meant to be. 2. When your boundaries are abused, she controls you with guilt. Have you ever noticed yourself apologizing more and more lately, not because you've actually done anything wrong, but simply for putting yourself first, for chasing a passion, nurturing a friendship, or even just making time for a small gathering with the guys? If you find yourself constantly self-correcting, every decision just to avoid upsetting the woman beside you, always careful not to be labeled selfish, there's a good chance you're being controlled by one of the quietest, most subtle forms of manipulation: guilt. This kind of control doesn't need loud accusations or explosive anger. Everything happens in silence, in those distant glances, the heavy sighs, the long, icy silences that settle in whenever you dare to honor your values or chase your own dreams. Over time, you start saying no, less and less. You stop choosing what makes you come alive, haunted by the question, am I hurting someone just by being myself? The kinder you are, the weaker you begin to feel, because every effort you make to care for others somehow gets turned around and used to keep you in check. Take Ethan, a trauma doctor in Chicago, once fiercely proud of his devotion to medicine and his passion for saving lives. He believed that with enough determination, he could be both a hero at the hospital and the loving anchor at home. But real life didn't unfold that way. After every overnight shift, instead of support, Ethan was greeted by long stretches of silence from his wife. No open anger, no direct blame, just an oppressive quiet that filled the room and made it hard to breathe. Little by little, Ethan found himself changing, declining the close calls with friends, skipping out on trips that used to light him up, shelving plans for the community project he once poured his soul into. Every time he wanted to do something just for himself, the question echoed, if I choose this, will it make her unhappy? Does that make me a selfish husband? That cycle of guilt kept growing, overshadowing everything he was once proud of. Kindness and generosity, traits that had always made him strong, now became his most easily exploited weaknesses. Somewhere along the way, he lost sight of the line between genuine love and sacrifices that crossed his own boundaries. Guilt-tripping manipulation through guilt needs no words, only enough time. It makes you shrink your world, trade away your dreams and your connections piece by piece, until the feeling of inner freedom is almost unrecognizable. Stoicism has always warned us, no one is free who is not master of himself, of his emotions, of his boundaries. Epictetus taught that true freedom begins with the courage to recognize and protect your own boundaries, even amid the emotional waves of others. The moment you hand over control of your feelings, your passions, your choice 7 to someone who says it's all out of love, you surrender the deepest freedom of all, the right to be yourself, unapologetically. How many times have you apologized for living in line with your values or chasing your own dreams? How many times have you quietly cancelled plans, stepped away from something that sparked joy, just to keep the peace or avoid letting someone down? In the end, do you realize that if you never get to live fully, all your sacrifices become nothing but shadows, and you're the one paying the highest price? How many times have you found yourself wondering, am I really living what I believe, or have I just gotten used to saying sorry for who I am? Each time you give in, Another piece of you is pressed into a tight corner of guilt and self-doubt until you begin to question even your most natural, honest feelings. And somewhere in that suffocating loop, you lose touch with the part of you that once stood tall, that once knew quietly, without shame, exactly who you were meant to be. 3. Addicted to drama, the destruction of peace. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship where every day feels like walking on eggshells, where even a single quiet moment can make you uneasy? Sometimes, the thing you crave most is just an ordinary afternoon, no tension, no storms, just a taste of peace. And yet, peace becomes the rarest thing. With this kind of woman, you never know what will ignite the next emotional storm. A late reply to a message, a distracted glance, or even just focusing on your workiny of it can become fuel for accusations, sulking, or those heavy silences that stretch out like an unspoken punishment. In those moments, it feels like you're trapped in a maze of emotions with no way out, forced to guess, to tiptoe, slowly losing the inner steadiness that once defined you. David was once a strong, grounded, athletic coach in Chicago, a man who built his career through grit and lived with an open heart, welcoming challenges. When he met Emilia, beautiful, vibrant woman who brought excitement and a spark to every day, David thought he was lucky. But just a few months in, he realized that beneath her energy lay constant undercurrents of drama. Whenever David got busy with work and took a little longer to reply, Emily would grow cold, post cryptic messages on social media, then call in the middle of the night just to accuse him of neglect. At parties, if David chatted too long with a colleague, Emily would drag him into an argument over the most trivial things, refrain always the same. "You don't care about me." Little by little, the smallest things could ignite new conflicts, and David found himself always firefighting unexpected tempests. He wasn't himself anymore. The strong, balanced man he'd always been was replaced by a restless, sleepless version, robbed of his peace. Some people are made uneasy by calm. For them, stillness feels like emptiness, like being forgotten. Drama isn't just a habit, it's a need. They crave to be the center, to be noticed, to provoke strong feelings as a way to validate themselves, even if it leaves the person beside them drained and exhausted. You find yourself losing the ability to rest, forgetting your own passions and goals, pouring all your energy into calming, endless emotional storms. Peace, the simplest thing of all, becomes a luxury in your daily life. And yet, out there are women like Michelle Obama, composed, grounded, always holding space for emotional safety in her home and for those she loves. She's admired not just for her intelligence and strength, but for her ability to create warmth and understanding without needing noise or conflict. Michelle once said, "Peace is not automatic, it's a choice. Sometimes it means patience, listening, and sometimes it means stepping away from drama to nurture yourself." She doesn't create chaos to feel important. Instead, she brings stability, inspires trust, and helps the man beside her stay steady, free to be himself, never ground down by unstable emotions. If you've ever felt that peace is just a distant dream, remember women like that do exist. They don't need to do anything grand or try to control. Through quiet patience and real listening, they transform ordinary moments into a healing space, a place where peace is not just possible, but the very foundation of life together. Stoicism teaches us, peace doesn't come from the outside, but from your own choices within. Not everyone deserves your sacrifice if the price is your inner calm, just for a moment of attention or to soothe a storm that isn't yours to bear. A man who lives the Stoic way knows what matters most. It's not about fueling drama, but about defending the sanctuary of his own soul. You are not responsible for putting out every fire, for quelling every storm that belongs to someone else. The only thing you must guard is the peace you've built for yourself through effort, self-mastery, and understanding. M. Maybe you've wished, time and again, for just one normal day, no drama, no storms, only to realize that peace has become the rarest thing in your world. And in the end, the difference comes down to your choice. Will you keep trading away your life to live in the heart of the storm, or will you find the courage to protect the peace that's always been yours? Drama addiction doesn't just destroy peace, it leaves you lonelier than ever, even when you're not alone. That's the next step toward true separation, and the moment you need to stop, look deep within, and remember, you deserve so much more than chaos. Fourth, lack of empathy, loneliness even when you're together. A woman who lacks empathy for you when life gets hard, when you stumble, does she truly stand beside you, or is she only present when things are easy? Ask yourself, in your darkest hours, when you need a shoulder, a listening ear, does she sense the sadness in your eyes, or is she just waiting for her turn to talk? Do you ever feel lonelier in your relationship than you did when you were actually alone? It's easy to recognize the signs of a lack of empathy, but you don't really understand their sting until you've lived through them. It's those moments when you're crushed under the weight of work, or after losing someone you love, and you come home hoping for just a little bit of comfort. What you find instead is indifferenza, few half-hearted words, or worse, impatience, and a quick shift to her own problems. When you open up about your exhaustion, instead of a silent embrace, you get a cold stare, a reminder that men are supposed to be strong, or worse, the accusation that you're blowing things out of proportion. The distance isn't just physical, it's spiritual. You feel like a stranger in your own relationship. I remember Mark, an engineer in Texas. After years of building his career, he faced the greatest loss of his life. His father, his confidant, his source of strength, passed away. In that moment, what Mark needed most was someone patient enough to just sit with him, letting his grief breathe and be respected. But his girlfriend kept turning the conversation back to herself, her stress at work, her daily anxieties, her latest drama. Sometimes she'd even say, "I know losing someone hurts, but you can't let it drag on forever, right?" Words like that, so casual, erased Mark's feelings, pushing him into an isolated darkness where his pain had to be hidden. Gradually, Mark stopped sharing altogether, turning inward, carrying all his hurt alone because he realized the woman at his side wasn't ready to empathize, to listen, or even to truly try to understand. A lack of empathy in a relationship is a silent poison. It erodes trust, value, and real connection. No matter how strong a man may be, there are moments when all he needs is a pair of listening eyes, an embrace that asks no questions. But when your smallest pains and greatest joys are met with judgment, with indifference, with cold comparison, every bond between you frays a little more. That's when you start to question your own feelings, wonder if you're asking too much, or if your needs are really so trivial. The loneliness, left unchecked, grows into a chasm not just in your relationship, but in your trust for yourself and for others. You withdraw, building walls, growing further apart from the world, even as you keep holding hands and exchanging empty words of love. And yet, beyond that loneliness, there are women who know how to listen, how to share, how to truly empathize through every twist and turn of a man's life. You don't need to be a movie star or a millionaire to deserve this. But if you've ever listened to Denzel Washington speak of his wife, Pauletta, you'll understand that empathy isn't just what saves a man, it's what builds a life worth living. In an interview, Denzel said, "There are so many people who will come to celebrate with you when you succeed, but the one who truly deserves to share in your glory is the person who stood quietly beside you in the storms." Pauletta was with me when all I had was a dream and a bus ticket. Today, Everyone sees the spotlight, but she is the reason I survived the hard days. Never take for granted the woman who holds your hand when you're broke, lost, or hurting the most. At the top of the mountain, you'll always find company, but cherish the one who crossed the valleys with you. Sometimes, even the strongest men feel small in their own home, just for lacking a listening gaze, a wordless embrace, or simply someone patient enough to sit in silence while their sorrow lingers. How lonely have you felt? Right there in the arms of the person you love. How many times have you swallowed your pain, knowing she wouldn't really care if you let it out? We convince ourselves we're tough, then build the highest walls, just to avoid more disappointment, to dodge the sting of indifference. And in that void, many of us try to fill the gap with flashy happiness, buying things, traveling, posting happy pictures, trying to numb the emptiness. But when night falls, the cold creeps in, and you're left wondering, are you really in a relationship or just clinging to the illusion of closeness? If you've ever asked yourself that question, maybe it's time to get honest. Empathy isn't a luxury. It's the minimum we all deserve in our search for lasting happiness. And sometimes we reach for distractions to fill the emptiness. But in truth, only the warmth of a truly empathetic heart can bridge the silent distance and bring you the love you're meant for. 5. Obsessed with glamour. When love is measured by appearances. Not every man realizes he's fallen for a woman obsessed with glamour, at least. Not until every private moment starts to feel like a stage, performed for the invisible audience of social media. Have you ever caught yourself struggling to become some perfect version, just to satisfy expectations of image, wealth, and the standards society piles on a man's shoulders? Every gift, every date, every word must be weighed. Will it look sparkling enough for her story? Will it earn enough praise to make her proud? Or is it really just another entry in the never-ending contest with those ideal couples out there? Right here, Stoic philosophy over 2,000 years ago saw through the emptiness of it all. The Stoics remind us, happiness isn't found in surface-level things, but in the depth of sincerity. The Stoic doesn't reject beauty, nor dismiss the fact we live in a world obsessed with appearances. But they understand that every bit of glamour will eventually fade. What endures is the real connection, the respect, the simple joys. These are what truly bind two people together. The Stoic asks us a hard question, like a mirror for every relationship. If all the status, the spotlight, the social media vanished tomorrow, would the woman beside you still value you for who you are not, for your position, your image, or anything you own? Because when a relationship turns into a stage for showing off, when outside praise becomes the measure of worth, every real connection slowly withers. You stop feeling loved for who you are and become, instead, an asset to be flaunted, compared, and used as leverage in someone else's game. Gradually, you're swept into the spiral, chasing trends, status, the expectations of others, losing yourself bit by bit without even knowing it. Those core values, sincerity, respect, simple joy that once formed the foundation of love, get drowned out by the glare of social media and the noise of empty compliments. I once heard the story of a free-spirited artist in California, a man who'd always lived for inspiration and freedom. He fell for a beautiful, magnetic woman who knew how to turn heads. At first, he was proud of that love. But over time, everything turned into a competition who could seem happier, trendier, more validated by society. He started changing how he dressed, trading in his old pickup for a luxury car just to keep her satisfied, weighing every photo, every shared moment by how it might appear online. One night, at a crowded party, he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror and realized he no longer recognized the free, joyful artist he once was. What lingered was a quiet doubt. Am I still loved as a man, Or am I just a trophy displayed for the world to see? When love and relationships are measured only by the number of compliments, by appearances, by what you can display online, you lose track of who you really are. You lose your creative spark, the simple joys, and end up feeling lost in a crowd even as you stand together, holding hands, reciting beautiful-sounding words. Have you ever wondered if you're just someone's asset for show instead of someone truly loved? If that question has ever crossed your mind, take a moment, listen to what you really feel. You don't have to run forever in a race where the prize is just a flash of admiration from strangers. Stoic philosophy reminds us, true, lasting happiness is never in the fleeting things, it's in sincerity and real connection. Don't let your time and kindness be wasted on values that only exist on social media or in other people's eyes. In the end, the most precious thing a man can possess isn't what you can show off to the world, but how you stay true to yourself, living real, living kind, living simply, and being loved for who you are, even when every spotlight has faded. 6. Wasted time. When your time means nothing to her. Have you ever looked back at your calendar and suddenly realized that the most precious hours of your life are slipping away in pointless waiting? Time is the one asset every human being receives in equal measure, yet not everyone's time is valued the same, especially in a relationship. Men often take pride in being proactive, disciplined, in chasing down their goals and staying true to their plans. And yet, nothing stings more than realizing the woman beside you treats that discipline, that drive, with casual disregard, or worse, spends your hard-earned minutes as if they were worthless. The signs are obvious if you're willing to see them. You're constantly waiting. Maybe it's important dates cancelled at the last minute, or her being late again and again, brushing it off as no big deal or blaming circumstances. Your schedule is always disrupted, your personal plans put on hold just to match her moods, her whims. You might spend weeks planning an anniversary, only to sit alone in a coffee shop, watching the clock tick by while she simply doesn't show up and offers no explanation, no apology. I think about Alex, a tech engineer in San Francisco, driven, disciplined man who squeezes every minute for growth. But in love, Alex became the one who waits. His girlfriend, beautiful, captivating, never showed up on time for anything. First it was 10 minutes, then 30, then an hour. More than once he stood in the rain for hours while she finished her makeup. On special days, she's birthday, an anniversary, or even after closing a big deal she could cancel at the last second, shoot him a quick apology by text, and disappear for the rest of the night. Over time, Alex realized he was trading away chances to see friends, missing out on networking events, even moving important work meetings just to wait for someone who never, not once, waited for him. Every time it happened, he'd tell himself, "She must be busy, I should be more understanding." But the more understanding he became, the more invisible he felt. His sense of self, his priorities, slowly got eroded. The man who once moved with purpose and creativity was now living around someone else's clock, always adjusting, always waiting, until one day he couldn't remember when he last put himself first. The worst part isn't just wasted time, it's the slow, creeping sense that you're not worth prioritizing, not important enough for someone else to make time for you. Little by little, your drive slips away. You lose faith in relationships, stop making plans for yourself, and the frustration, the stress, the quiet anxiety grows like a wound that never really heals. Ask yourself, how many times have you waited for someone who has never once waited for you? How many personal goals have you set aside? How many opportunities have you let go just to keep someone else happy while she's never truly considered what you're giving up? Stoic philosophy warns us, Time is the only asset you can never reclaim. Don't waste it on those who don't value it for, as Seneca said, it's not that we have too little time, but that we waste much of it. The Stoic doesn't blame circumstances, doesn't lash out, but faces the truth. The way others treat your time is a mirror of how they value you. So he learns to let go of those who can no longer honor his presence, who don't appreciate the kindness and discipline he brings. He learns to spend his moments only on what's worthy his passions, his purpose, the people who truly know the worth of his company. In the end, the deepest pain isn't in standing alone, waiting. It's in realizing that all your love, your kindness, your effort is being treated as something obvious, something that never matters enough for someone to cherish. That's the moment you need to stop and ask yourself, should you keep sacrificing your time, your value, your kindness for someone who only knows how to take and never offers anything in return? Because more painful than wasted time is when your love and decency are taken for granted. And sometimes, the journey back to self-respect begins in that single moment when you decide your time is no longer up for waste. 7. When love and kindness are taken for granted, your heart becomes invisible. Sometimes a man doesn't need much, just a grateful glance, a sincere thank you. That's enough to soothe even the hardest days. But in love, kindness given to the wrong person, kindness that goes unrecognized, quickly becomes a silent debtor, favor assumed, an expectation that needs no reciprocation. Stoic philosophy teaches us kindness and love are precious gifts reserved for those who truly value them. When someone is undeserving, the greatest courage is knowing when to withdraw that gift to protect yourself. In the end, what you keep isn't the label of boyfriend or partner. It's your value, your deep inner peace as a man. Sometimes, the mark of true maturity is knowing when to stop, when to save your compassion for those who deserve it, and when to honor yourself first. Only then can you outlast the wounds and be generous enough to welcome a love that's truly worthy in the future. What starts as love, as willingness, gradually gets eroded by the habit of being overlooked. A man in that situation no longer feels inspired to nurture, to express his affection. He just wants to withdraw, to conserve every good feeling because he can't bear to be used any longer. One day, he realizes his gentleness has become the excuse for more demands, that his love and kindness mean nothing if they're not met with real gratitude. So he hardens, closes off, maybe even grows cold, not from lack of feeling, but from too many wounds where giving was never enough. I once met Ethan, an independent interior designer in New York. He thought if he was kind enough, patient enough, caring enough, he'd get back the tenderness and gratitude of the woman he loved. But he never expected that over time, that love would become given his every effort, turned into a non-negotiable standard. If anything was missing, he'd get blamed, compared, even put down in front of others. Once, Ethan spent weeks dreaming up a new apartment makeover to surprise his girlfriend. Her response? A frown, a casual criticism. Anyone can tell a man decorated this, I told you so. No thanks, just more suggestions and a new list of expectations. When Ethan was tired and needed a night off, she accused him of being lazy or uncaring or used his past kindness as a weapon. You used to care. What happened to you now? Have you ever felt this way? How many times have you given your best to someone only to be met with judgment, disregard, or worse, told you're still not enough? That's the most dangerous trap. When kindness goes unappreciated, a man can start to believe he was born just to serve, that his value only exists in pleasing someone else. That's not love, it's trading your worth for a bit of fleeting calm, only to end up drained and emotionally dry. But not every woman is like that. The opposite of taking kindness for granted is embodied by women like Pauletta Washington now, a symbol of gratitude, empathy, and appreciation for millions of men in the West. Denzel Washington, actor and icon, has said many times, "Without Pauletta, there would be no me. She was the first to thank me for the smallest things and never turned love into a one-sided duty." When Denzel was unknown, struggling, Pauletta didn't just stick by him. She noticed, encouraged, and returned every act of kindness with warmth and true thanks. She never made anything a duty. Because of that, their love not only survived, it grew stronger every day. That contrast is a quiet but powerful reminder. Some women, no matter how much you give, never forget to say thank you. They honor, they reciprocate, and they turn kindness into the strongest foundation. With them, a man never feels small. He grows, he's confident, he's alive in his own value. And then, one day, you realize the most precious thing you have isn't the relationship itself, but your own value and peace of mind. That's when you're strong enough to end the cycle of unworthy giving, strong enough to keep your kindness for yourself, and patient enough to wait for, to welcome, the kind of love that meets you heart for heart. Ask yourself, how many times have you given kindness only to be taken for granted? And do you have the courage to keep that gift for yourself, instead of trading your heart for someone who never truly values it? You've just walked with me through the quiet but dangerous territory of 7 warning sins, a journey few men are ever taught to take. There's no handbook, no textbook for this, yet these silent red flags can quietly erode your life if you don't wake up and see them for what they are. Now, I invite you just for a moment to sit down and ask yourself, how many years have you traded away? How many dreams have you let fade? How many times have you forgiven what you never truly deserved? All just to hold on to a relationship that, in the end, left you only with doubt and loneliness. Stoic philosophy teaches us the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And the quality of your life begins with the courage to choose the right people to walk beside you, the courage to leave behind anything that no longer serves your peace and self-respect. The strongest man isn't the one who's never stumbled or never been hurt. It's the man who has the strength to walk away when he realizes his kindness and love have been taken for granted. That's when you open a new door, one that only those truly worthy are allowed to step through into the sanctuary of your inner world. If you've seen yourself in any of these stories, remember this: you're not alone on this path. Subscribe, and let me walk beside you on this journey of building real strength, peace, and authentic masculinity. Leave a comment below, share the one thing that weighs on your mind, or just type, "I choose awakening." Your story, your voice, could be the very thing that saves another man out there, trapped in silence. This is Stoic App, and I'll see you in the next video where the true value of a man is honored, and your inner freedom remains a treasure no one can ever take from you. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius.